Hello everyone, welcome to episode 3 of 1am. We have a very special guest today, Leanne. Very lucky to have her on the pod. And as usual, we kind of want to start off with some questions around our main theme of what keeps people up at night. Like what do you think about, just as you're about to go to bed, or like when you can't sleep, or what's been on your mind lately? Yeah.
Hi, Justin. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I'm Leanne, and those are really difficult questions to start with, I feel.
Yeah.
Wow, you really need to dig so deep into what was I thinking about last night? Probably work. Because if you have a work problem, you just think about it 24/7, and sometimes you dream about it. So I actually dreamt about doing podcast interviews today. Yeah. So I'm also a podcast host, and I had 3 interviews today. So I actually dreamt about Elaine last night. Yeah, I told her as well. I was like, yeah, I think I was just thinking about our episode too much and just overthinking it that she was in my dream. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, interesting. And I guess when you think a lot about work, do you find it hard to switch off, and is overthinking something you recognize that's not good for you? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's so much with, if it's your own business and projects that you're really passionate about, there's just no off switch, because you're just constantly having new ideas and just oh, maybe I should do it this differently, or even just the outfit I'm gonna wear today, just think about every little scenarios. And I'm not sure if someone already said this on your pod, but I think one of the main things that people think about before they sleep is what they could have done differently in things throughout the day. Do you feel me?
Yeah, definitely. Kind of the thoughts of you kind of zoom in on those little moments, and you're could I have said this differently, or could I have done this task differently? Yeah, I think sometimes I get dreams of me getting fired, or these dreams of I don't know, me just missing a whole quarter's worth of work. But I think that's pretty natural. How do you deal with that then? What's some advice or things you do personally to stop yourself from overthinking on small things? Yeah.
I mean, it's such a cliche answer, but I meditate. I go on this meditation app. It's called One Giant Mind, and they have a meditation timer. Have you had experiences with meditation? Yeah. Do you prefer the guided, someone talking in the background, or just send music?
Yeah, definitely guided. I mean, I probably try meditate for 5 minutes, but I always make it up to probably only 30 seconds. But at least I'm trying. So yeah, speak a bit about that. What does meditation do for you? So you this guided meditation, you do it, and someone does it kind of relax your thought, detach yourself from the day, or what's the purpose for you there? Yeah.
For me, recently, this app, so the meditation timer, it's just music. So it's really chill and relaxing music, and it has a timer. There's a ding after 15 or 30 minutes. So I think it really just makes you go into that relaxing state during that period of time. And so this is for nighttime. Right. And in the morning, I do guided meditation. I listen to this other podcast called Wake Me Up. And there's a different theme for each episode. And some of them are just if you're having a bad day, or if you have a ton of meetings today, then how do you set yourself in the right mindset to go about your day?
Right. Yeah. Do you remember the last time you had a really bad day? What did meditation do for you? Does this work? These routines, I think routines aren't just there for you on the best of times. You hit the gym every day, or you meditate every day, so that it provides a safety net for you for the worst of times, right? Yeah.
No, for sure. And I feel like on the bad days, it's more about not trying to like turn the bad day into a good day because that is pretty hard. But it's more like finding moments in the bad days to really like have a moment of like peacefulness or where you can like feel calm or you feel like yourself, and then like something else might happen, you know? Yeah, so for me, like during work, if I have like a full schedule of like very stressful meetings and I'm like doing stuff that I don't want to, then I will just find like a small break, even just like 5 minutes, to like just listen to some music and maybe like do some breathing exercises to even have that like few minutes of like, okay, I feel better now, and then like go about. I recently heard this like analogy. It's like, so say if this is like your normal, and this is, and then okay, bad day normal, and then it can go even like worse. So if you like go like to like a dip, and to not go further down, you will try to not to go back to this normal because there might be like a really big gap, but like after a dip you go back to like that bad day normal. Yeah, so that's at least what I try to do.
Well, I really like that idea of like finding like these small intervals in your day that kind of uplift you and just kind of reminds you that you're not constantly on this bad, like kind of bad journey. I think, for me, one thing I always remind myself is that good cycles always follow bad cycles. So you have bad days, you'll have good days. And just as you have good days, you have bad days. And there's always that sort of yin and yang at play. For you, what separates a good day and a bad day? Yeah.
I mean, other than the obvious, like, I feel like I'll have such a better day if I'm like on vacation. Yeah. Well, I guess like other than those obvious factors is more so like just like your mindset. Because I've had recent experiences where I was on vacation, I was having like an objectively like perfect day, but I was still feeling like shit and like not myself. And I think like afterwards I realized that I just wasn't being like in the present moment. I was just like worrying about like my future plans, and even like in those like zen times I was like, oh, but like I'm not working right now, I'm like just like being lazy and like slacking off. So my mindset just really like determined the whole thing and made it into a bad day. Yeah,
it's like almost like a bit of an anticlimactic like force at play. You're like, oh, I'm at vacation, I'm supposed to be super happy, but it's strange that I'm having a bad day. Yeah, talk a bit more about like that mindfulness. How do you help yourself to become more present, or like what are things you do daily, or small things, big things to be present? Yeah.
I think the most like just like scientifically speaking, it's like like tapping back into your five senses, right? Like just putting down your phone and like noticing your surroundings, like see, like hear, smell, taste, and like touch. I think that actually really helps. Just that instant feeling of like I'm actually here, like I can like touch this and I can like see you. Yeah. And there's this practice that I'm still like working on it to make it a routine, but it's just like every once in a while, like throughout your day, you just really ask yourself like, am I feeling okay, and like how am I feeling? Because there can be so many times when you're just like working, or you're like on your phone, or even like mindlessly like watching stuff, and you forget to feel. Does that make sense? Yeah.
It's like simple but quite powerful. Like, simple but quite powerful. Just like asking yourself like, hey, like how are you actually doing, right? Interesting. Yeah. And what about times when you aren't able to resolve that? Because sometimes, like I will have thoughts in my mind and I'm like, okay, clearly I'm feeling down, but I can't really, conceptualize it or put it into words. Do you ever have that? Like, do you find it difficult to like verbalize moments when you're feeling down, and what do you do then? Yeah.
I think the most important thing is just to just to let yourself like feel down.
Right.
Yeah, because I mean, I also have like this tendency of being so impatient and just be like, okay, you cannot feel down anymore. You have to like pick yourself back up and like say all these like positive things. But there are times, those things don't work, and you just need to be in that like sadness and even like cry or like listen to like really sad songs for a while, and then eventually it'll go away.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Like put on some sad indie on Spotify.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, also as a guy, I feel it's sometimes hard to be in touch with your emotions. Sometimes I hear like girls say like just cry it out, and like that's a tip also therapists use. Like if you feel something, you have to really express it. Talk a little bit about like, what are some of the things you do outside like meditation or outside being present that helps you with that emotional balance? Are there things in, general well-being that you do in your week, like, working out or like doing certain things that help you maintain that balance? Yeah.
I wish that I could say that I work out, but I really don't.
Free podcast is like a workout.
It's like a workout, like running from one part of Central to the other. Fair enough. Yes, I should give myself more credit for that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, I love reading. I love being in nature, but not hiking. I love being by the beach. Yeah. So sometimes I just like go. I mean, Hong Kong is easy, so just like go sit by the beach. Yeah, and I think one important thing is your surroundings. So like the people that you surround yourself with, because if I'm having like a not great day and people around me are just like complaining and like ranting and just like going on and on about like this sucks and like things that they cannot like change, then it obviously can like drag my energy down. I'm not saying that not to be there for your friends, but I think it's like setting those healthy boundaries of how much you can actually like help them, and not putting yourself in a position where it also affects you to a point that you cannot help anyone. Yeah, so if that happens, I'm just gonna tell my friends that I need some time for myself, and then I will go back to addressing their problems. So I think that's quite important, especially for a place like Hong Kong when everyone's just so stressed out, and it's so normal to complain and rant, and I do that as well, but just catch yourself, I guess, to be aware of how much you are actually doing it, and not let yourself like go down that spiral.
Right. Yeah, I really like what you said about just, setting boundaries and, making sure people's energy doesn't affect yours. How do you think you've learned that over time? Because I think as a young professional in Hong Kong, there's a lot of like FOMO factor, or like you just like, a lot of people pleasers all around, right? But over time, when that negatively affects you, you kind of become more conscious. How do you think through your journey, like you've become more conscious of setting boundaries? Yeah.
Well, at first it was really just being in the situation and getting affected like a lot, and just because I'm sure everyone will have those days where you're like, I didn't really do anything, but like I'm just so tired, and like what went wrong?
Right.
Yeah, so for me, I feel like a lot of those times were actually I was just like talking to people and just letting that drain my energy. And even if it was like chilling, but it wasn't like, it was like sitting with a friend and just like listening to like complaints, like sometimes. So I realized that, and realized like how much it was affecting me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it just started with like career, like my work boundaries first, just not letting people like text me on weekends, or they can text me, but it's okay if I don't reply, and just setting that communication first, because I think it's just so easy that people will feel guilty, or like, oh, I have to like reply them because it's just on WhatsApp. It's like I can just type for like 1 second, but it's not about like the time or like the actual WhatsApp message. It's about your brain having to go back to that like work mode, and then right, exactly, yeah. So I guess like that's my process, and then slowly I developed more confidence in communicating this with like friends and like family.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. Yeah, I think my rule is always like, it never sucks to be nice, but sometimes being nice all the time actually hurts people.
Yeah.
And do you think that makes you become more selective of the type of people you surround yourself with, like both at work or, with friends? Like now when you meet new people, like do you have this lens, or how do you process like people you meet in the city? Yeah.
Great question. I think because Hong Kong is like so vibrant, like if we want to, we get to meet so many people weekly, even just like going to like restaurants and bars. For me, I don't really have a like selective like process, but yes, I am very cautious of like the people that I spend time with. Yeah, it's just mostly like how they make me feel, because even just with like the language that certain people use, I've had like best friends from the past who loves dragging people down to make themselves feel better, and back then I would just like justify like, oh, like that's just her personality, like she wasn't like trying to hurt anyone, and that really wasn't like the intention. But in like the truth, it really did hurt me, because I was like listening to all this and subconsciously like taking it in. Yeah, so I mean now I love having like a supportive community, and just people like, even when everyone is down, like you won't feel like oh, we're just all gonna like give up, and like it's not like that vibe. Yeah, it's like we're all down, but like it's okay. Yeah, exactly.
What defines like a supportive friend to you? Like how do you differentiate between those who are really there for you through the toughest of times, or just like, people who you socialize with on weekends? Yeah.
I mean, it really is like, you already answered it, I feel. It's just the people who are like there for you. Right. Yeah. Because sometimes I make like really fast friends. It's like people that I would meet on like a weekend, and then we will like bond like quite deeply. And I think for me, like, that's okay. It's not about how long you've known a person. It's about like that person like trying to understand your situation and trying to like be there for you when things don't go as well. Right. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I think so. Roughly the same. I think just finding friends you can be like vulnerable with, like all around, being able to share like difficulties, different realms of your life, I think. Yeah, as a guy, I think it's easy a lot of times to just like talk a lot about just work and just be like your work troubles, but sometimes we don't really share like are you having trouble with your relationship, or are you having trouble with family, or even anything that's on your mind. So those who you can open up easily, and you kind of know that. Yeah. What about you? Do you find yourself you have this like you're very clear on the type of people who you're able to share openly with? Do you find yourself, is it easy for you to share things openly with other people, or?
I mean, okay, I'm a huge believer in astrologer. You can think differently about this, but I'm just gonna use this as a reference. So I'm an Aries, so my sign is just known for being very open and like direct. So I actually am that. So yeah, I think for me it's quite easy for me to like open up and share. And I've definitely come across experience in the past where I was being overly open, and the person kind of like took advantage, or like used certain like information against me, like things like that. Yeah, so learn my lesson. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. As a creator yourself, and you attend a lot of events in Hong Kong. You network a lot of different people. Do you find that pressure to like maintain that public image, or maintain that selective connection with certain people? Yeah.
I'm so glad you asked this. I've been actually trying to talk about this for a while, but haven't found like the right place yet. I mean, yeah, absolutely. For a long time, I was trying so hard to be like a certain way and to live up to like certain expectations that other people have of me. Not even have, like, that they created of me, that, oh, they expected me to act a certain way because of my job, because I will like go to all these things. So I must be falling into a specific category of even just like outfits that I wear, places that I go to. Yeah, and I really was trying to do that for a while. Yeah, but it's so tiring. It's not me. And eventually, I think it just, like, your body would tell you. Like, you would literally feel so uncomfortable that you cannot stay in that environment for 1 second longer. Yeah.
What about it made you uncomfortable with it? Like,
I think I just wasn't being myself.
right.
Like, the way that I dressed and like the conversations that I was talking about was like superficial, and just I would have like a second, like in cartoons, like I say one thing and there's just like another person like saying what I actually want to say.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, but I was like scared, or like I was afraid that it's not like up to like the image or like expectation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's really interesting and thoughtful. I think in Hong Kong, especially if you're in, around these events or perhaps in public limelight, you almost have this pressure to conform to be a certain way. Do you think for other creators out there that's a similar challenge? Like, it's very difficult for them to find their own inner voice. And, for you, how did you eventually embark on your own journey to find that inner voice? Like, when did you realize, like, hey, this is not for me, like, I want to present my own authentic self? Yeah.
I definitely think it's a challenge just in general for people who have a online presence, because it can look very like 2D. It can be like, oh, like you're like a wellness influencer, like a fashion, or like a foodie, and people will only remember you for like this one thing. And if you do something that's like not in that category, people will judge you. Yeah. So I think definitely a lot of people that I've talked to are also like finding their way through this. And I think for me, one thing is that I can see more and more examples of people putting themselves out there and just like being vulnerable, like posting photos with like no filter, no makeup on. And there is like a community who is very supportive of that, like being very relatable. So I think having those like role models definitely help. And also another one is just like owning your truth, because I mean, even for me, when I was not being myself, it was because I wasn't confident in who I was. So, but when you have developed that confidence, then you're not scared to share who you really is to the world.
I love that. Like, it's kind of progressive buildup of confidence to find your inner voice.
Yeah.
So as a creator, you're known for like mindfulness and wellness, but really what do you want to be known for? Because I think, like you said, it's easy to kind of categorize or like compartmentalize people into like certain areas. Like, she's a fashion influencer, but what does it really mean for you to be a mindfulness or a wellness creator?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like even this term for me is quite relatively new, because I used to be like a luxury like travel influencer. And I think right now, because I've been through a lot of like personal journeys, including like I dropped out of college, I like started like my own business at a young age and went through like a lot through that, and just like Chinese family, society expectations, mental health issues, like things like that. So right now I'm just really hoping to like share to like past versions of myself, people who kind of are also going through a similar path, because I really wanted to have someone to look up to who also went through this when I was at that stage. So I guess I'm just like hoping to be that person, and even just like sharing little like ups and downs now to show that it's like okay to to not be okay. I know it's so cliche, but yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to approach this in my content creation because I still do like travel. I still do like fancy things sometimes. I do like go to like fashion events, but yeah, I guess I'm just like navigating how I can like be authentic in like all that.
I love that. It's like you're showing up for your 16-year-old self.
Yes.
So you want to like be there for, who you were, like, at that time. Yeah. What do you think your 16-year-old self would say to you now, like given that?
Oh my God. I love asking people this question, but I've never been asked this. I think the main thing is just like everything's going to work out. Yeah. Especially at that age, teenagers, we used to overthink everything. Even the slightest, like, oh, does my friend like me? And like the tiniest comment feels like it could ruin our lives. So just knowing that like it really doesn't, and like just trying to I guess I would try to tell myself to see things from like a more macro perspective, but it's very hard. I still think it's really hard right now. But at least you try.
Absolutely. I mean, I think your story of like, dropping out of college, starting your business when you were young. Talk a bit about like the tough times then, like when, people, because I'm sure there was some stigma against that. There were the naysayers, people who were kind of against it. How do you how did you, persevere through those tough times, or like against all those odds?
It really does sound so cliche, but it just really believing in yourself. I think like there can be so many people who don't believe in you, and also incidents that you might have failed that you was not able to succeed like during that time. But I think just remembering that everyone like starts from zero, and it really does take time, just acknowledging that it does take time to build experiences and to have the experiences in order to be better each time. And sorry, I forgot your question.
Like how do you go through those tough times, like
okay.
And then like starting your own business, like people who are against your unconventional path? I mean, that's why I started my podcast, because I wasn't able to find anyone in my community who like resonate with this, and let alone who also have like experiences to drop out of college. And it is so true that like once you try to start building your community, it will attract the people that like you're meant to meet. So even like on the first few episodes of my podcast, I was just posting like a random post on Facebook, like in those like Facebook groups. Those were the days.
And that worked. And one of my guests from America, like we only met through Zoom, and she also dropped out of college, and she's now like quite a successful real estate agent in LA. So it's just like, and in those moments I realized, I actually don't need to necessarily vibe with the people that I grew up with or people like in my existing community. Like the world is actually so big that there are so many people out there living different lives, that there will be some that resonates with you. And knowing that also is like a part that like kept me going, because I know now that whatever I share out there, like people that I know like in Hong Kong might not believe in the same concepts, but there will be like certain people who knows where that listen to this and be like, I feel the same.
I like how you said, in the absence of those people, you just like take matters into your own hand and you build that community. What was it like, especially in Hong Kong, building that community? It must have been quite challenging, right? Like apart from posting on Facebook groups, what was like initial reactions, or like how did you build that community in Hong Kong?
It is still very difficult. There are still a lot of like naysayers and people who like judge me on like, oh, like how can you say that like college is not important?
Right.
Yeah, even my own parents, like they would be like, oh, do you think you'll be like the target of like haters because you're sharing this online? Yeah.
Oh,
So it can get quite extreme.
yeah.
Yeah, but I think nowadays, like more and more people are slowly more accepting of this idea. Like I recently, like now I share at schools a lot. So
Right.
I did like a week program at like HIS and like Charlton College and American International Schools.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So the topic wasn't like, oh,
Encourage them
like
to
don't go
drop
to
out.
school. Yeah. I mean, it was on something else, but
Yeah.
of course, like, I would share my own backstory,
Yeah.
and the schools were not against that, which is
That's
a good
great.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely see a progress.
Yeah, I think the model there is not just about like or dropping out of school, but it's just like finding your path and finding your voice, and not following traditional paths. Talk a bit about that judgment. Like I think judgment comes from everywhere. Your family, your friends. Do you think a lot about judgment, like from others, and do you find that a bit like something you want to, change or resolve? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think judgment is the hardest when it comes to people that you care about. I mean, for me, I don't really care if there's like a hater on Instagram or someone like use like a fake account to DM me. I think whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's more so, yeah, like family members and like your own friends
That's right.
who judge you and don't understand you.
Right.
I think, like, for me, what I care more about is like their intention is that if they're judging out of they are worried for you and they're just
Right.
like concerned, or if they're actually judging you, then that's
Right.
a complete different
Out
story.
of jealousy or out of like hate,
Yeah, and there's so many of that.
Interesting.
Especially, like, I really do think these kind of like negative judgments can come unexpectedly
Yeah.
because, I mean, jealousy, like, it's such a real emotion, right? And
Yeah.
like they definitely can happen, but I think it's just like communicating with the person and to helping each other to like understand their like point of view.
Yeah, I think a lot of like kind of tensions between friends or comes from a lot of just misunderstanding. But at what point do you feel it's too much? Have you ever cut people out of your life or like friends out of your life? I think this is an interesting topic because I've kind of talked to this about a friend recently. It's like you become friends with people out of habit and out of history, right?
Yeah.
But then maybe over time, as you've changed, they've changed, both of you have changed, perhaps you realize actually this friendship's not as great. Has that happened for you? Yeah.
I feel like I'm just gonna get so much hate on this because I've actually done this like multiple times
Right.
where I just like cut up people off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I really just do it to protect myself, to protect my well-being.
Yeah.
And I do get judged for that. Like, there are people who comment like, oh, like Leanne like changes like friend group so much, and like she has like a new best friend like every like once in a while. But for me, I feel like because we go through like different phases in life,
Yeah.
and even if I'm not best friends with you like right now, if we like fall apart, there can be a chance where we like meet
Right.
again in the
Right.
future. And I think because like you said, you can really make friends out of like habit, and you can have so much like care and
Yeah.
and how to say like 包容, like
Yeah.
yeah. So and like that person can really like act out and like hurt you and like do like take you for granted, and you can still stay friends with them because you've known them all your life. But that's not healthy, and I think
Right.
those toxic relationships can really drag one person down. And I've had like first-hand experience with just someone, like just one of my previous friends, like love like victimizing herself and
Right.
just like needing everyone to like save her, and me in that position wanting to save her, but then having multiple trials realize that this person doesn't want to be saved. She just likes like the attention and just putting herself in that victimized position. So me like caring about her was not able to help her situation.
Right.
So I think it's just better to like cut someone off.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I think definitely self-protection, but at least you tried, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's not something like where you make an immediate judgment, but you give people the benefit of the doubt, and then you know, for the sake of your own interests and your own mental well-being, you do these things, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think that applies both for not just a friendship, but it could be a relationship, it could be work, right? So, you know, you recently left your job. Like,
Yeah.
you think the same applies? Like, you know, being able to just tell yourself this is not for me, like, and have the courage to really embark on your own path. Yeah.
One thing that I kept telling myself when I was in the process of wanting to quit my job was that by putting myself in a situation that is not 100% suitable for me, I'm actually taking myself away from areas where I can be of actual value.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, like I could be doing so much more to like help people, to just like do other things that I'm actually passionate and good at, where somewhere I can put like 120%.
Right.
And yeah, not being in a place where I'm only putting in like 80%, and like the other
Right.
20% are like worries, you know, like self-doubt, and just like
Right.
spending all my energy on those other like insecurities.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're actually doing a disservice to yourself and your talents for not, you know, putting into a place where it deserves, right? Yeah. You know, for you, when did you realize that? Like, when did you realize, okay, I'm not putting my value here? And, you know, how did you end up crafting your own, you know, path or alternative path? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've actually heard of this like a long time ago. So your body is the first indication when like that it needs you to leave. And it's by giving you like small signs, you know, of like, oh, like a headache, yeah, and just like back pain, like stomach pains, and we all feel it, this is normal, like, oh, like it's like a city person illness where we have all these like aches,
Right.
but it's actually not.
Telling you something. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And I was getting really sick like regularly
Right.
when I was at my job, so I just started noticing like what is my body trying to tell me?
Right.
Yeah, and then it just like came to a point where I really just like mentally I felt drained, and that I was just doing things where I wasn't like passionate in, and I just knew that something had to change.
Right. Yeah, I think listening to your body is like super important. So talk a bit about like now you're in open waters, this exciting new journey. You're about to run this retreat. You know, what's on your mind? Like, how do you feel? Is it daunting? Is it exciting? Yeah.
Both super daunting and super exciting. Well, obviously there are the self-doubt and like the worries of like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to have like a stable income, and just not having like a support system at work, but also just maintaining that faith that you're meant to be like on the path that you're on, and just trusting that like opportunities will come. And it has been coming like ever since like I quit my job. I took myself out of that situation and gave myself space to explore and to get inspired. I really do find inspiration. Yeah, and it's not just like actual opportunities. It's not like people who like message you. It's like it's like inspiration's coming to you.
Right.
Yeah, like you noticing things that you haven't noticed before, and be like, oh, like maybe like this can be something, or like something that I can like share and like talk about, or like, oh, like this person that I've known for so long, I can actually interview them on my podcast.
Right.
Yeah.
Like what sort of inspirations? Could you talk a bit about some examples? Yeah.
Just literally just even by sitting on the bus and looking out the window and just seeing like how people live on the street. Like before I would just like be on my phone and be like super stressed out and like, oh, I'm so tired. I think that's the thing, like I was just so tired that and I wasn't able to like notice actual things around me. But now, like, even in my like content creation, I'm starting to take a lot more like aesthetic things of my surroundings, of like the street. So that's like a new form of inspiration for me.
Right. Yeah. I think when you free up that mental space, then you can have that space to become more creative and play around with different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I love that how it's like you have that sense of like self-conviction. You know, as you go through this new journey, you know, there will be signs, external signs that give you that self-conviction. How do you maintain self-conviction in yourself? Like you have this sense of like, I want to present my inner voice, like, you know, embark on this new journey. When times are tough, how do you think you can maintain that conviction? Yeah.
So for a while, I have this practice of keeping something called I call it like a spiritual proof. So it's just things that have happened to me in the past things that have worked out.
Right. Well,
Yeah, and it's literally just going back to those examples and remembering it. And even like something really small, even just like your friend like treating you to like a cup of coffee can feel like a blessing. Yeah, and during COVID, I was going through like a dip financially, and people were just like not knowing the situation. People were like, oh, like, can I like buy you a coffee, and like, can I like give you this like sample of this thing, you know?
Right.
And I mean, it's something really small, and it might have also happened like before when I wasn't like in the financial dip, but just like noticing those things just made me feel like, oh, I'm actually being taken care of by like, I mean, I believe in like the universe, so that's the universe for me. Yeah, and also just having faith in like people around me, and just knowing that like I'm being well taken care of. Yeah.
Well, I guess that's like a practice of gratitude.
Yeah.
How important is that practice to you? Like, you know, I think it's easy in Hong Kong. We get kind of stuck in the kind of mundane rhythms of life, day to day. We forget to practice that. Or how do you, you know, ensure practice consistency in that practice of gratitude? Yeah.
Funny enough, I'm actually hosting a workshop on gratitude tomorrow. Yeah. Wow. So important. Everyone should have a gratitude journal, even just for your own like well-being. Even just reminding yourself that like everything is actually going great. Yeah, because we can get so sucked in those like little dips. We forget to like celebrate the small wins. Everything I say sounds so cliche, I know, but it's true. And just yeah, that's it.
What are you grateful for these days?
Wow, I feel like honestly like everything. So I've said this multiple times like in public that I don't believe like mistakes are failures. I believe like mistake and failures are just like a different route. It's just like a different route for you to like understand like your true purpose. Yeah, so super grateful for like the ups and the downs. Yeah, and just I mean obviously the opportunity that I was able to like leave my job and still have like the space to do what I want to do. Yeah, and also just like people around me, like including you for having me on your podcast today.
Thank you to you.
Yeah.
Cool. And with gratefulness, a lot of that, you know, you look forward to things in life. What are some of the things you're looking forward to? Like you get excited about, you know, just you talked a bit about like you overthink about, you know, things about work. Do you ever overthink in a positive way, like out of excitement, like I'm excited for this, like looking forward, what excites you? Yeah.
Oh, I get overexcited a lot as well. Yeah, no, so many things, because I'm now trying to like be a digital nomad now that I have this capacity. So this is like the next few months is the first time in my life where I don't have like a set schedule. So I literally bought like a one-way ticket. Yeah, and basically just like leave things open for possibilities to come.
Right.
And like for the summer, I'm gonna have like a few work things in Europe, but I also don't have like an end date of like when I'll come back, or like leaving like weekends open for like, or like weekend trip here or there, and not filling my schedule so full. Because sometimes, like even like in Hong Kong, I would pack my things like back to back, and when things actually come, like, oh, like can you like go to host like this workshop, I was like, oh no, sorry, I can't, because I already have things like so packed. But yeah, just leaving that space for things to flow.
Wow. So just opening a lot of doors and like, you know, seeing how they flow, right? That's cool. Yeah, I think, what do you think, you know, as we begin to look into our next decade, I like asking people, your 35-year-old self looking at you now, you know? Like what would they say, you know? Like, would they be proud of you? Would they give you some piece of advice? Well, yeah.
My 35-year-old self would definitely tell me to save more money. At the same time, my 26-year-old self would say that I only live once.
Yeah, right. Really go enjoy it, you know, take those trips and like, you know, enjoy yourself while you can, right? Yeah. What does that ideal life look like? You're 35 now. What does a quality of life, like what is a quality life look like? Yeah.
I'm a huge believer in manifestation, and I am quite happy to say that most things I've been manifesting in the past have come true one way or the other. So I feel like right now, like where I am, including I do things that I'm passionate about. I surround myself with like supportive and loving friends. I'm able to travel around, like have like a somewhat stable like financial situation to enjoy finer things in life, like at the times when I want to. Yeah, I mean, I would kind of want to everything to be maintain the same, but of course me having grown and a lot more successful in my career, fingers crossed, hopefully like an inspirational speaker, or have like definitely publish a book, something along those lines. But just like the day to day, I think quite similar. Yeah.
I guess we'll wait for that book to be published, right? Make sure to get a copy with it. Yeah, so I think I think I asked a lot of people, you know, life isn't about, you know, big titles or big ambitions. It's about the day to day, right? You know, right now, how does your day to day, I mean, it's probably going to change quite a lot as you go into, you know, a much more fluid state. How do you envision it to continue to change? Like, do you hope to have some structure, or do you enjoy, like, you hope this fluidity to continue to being there? Yeah. Talk a bit about like kind of your day-to-day regimen. Yeah.
I love being spontaneous, and I love being like in flow, right? But for me, I also love a sense of structure and routine. So what I do is that I have like my non-negotiables, even just like weekly and daily, like daily I need to, like in the morning I need to have like my whole set of like morning routines. And when I eat, like I might not eat at the same time every day, but when I do it, I order the same thing, or I go to like the same restaurants. Yeah, so it's just having those sense of like security. And yeah, so when I travel around, I still carry those with me. Yeah, like I have to, you know, upload my podcast every like once every 2 weeks. Yeah, post on Instagram like somewhat regularly. Eat the same food. Yeah.
What food do you eat?
Like the most basic food. Literally all of like the mainstream basic food. Yeah, like sushi, avocado toast, all like the Instagrammable things.
Get that everywhere, I guess.
Yeah, and listen to the same songs. Like I still listen to the exact same songs when I used to as a kid. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so just having those sense of having those things that I feel most comfortable with, and bringing those into every like new locations that I go to.
Like that. So I kind of, you build your own mental home,
Yeah.
even though you're physically not at home, right?
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Yes, that is
That's
so
cool.
true.
That's cool. Yeah, I think one thing about being in your 20s is that there's so much unknown. But then we've started to form these little habits or little preferences. Do you notice that for yourself? Like, are you able to pick up new things, like new passions, or you say you eat certain foods all the time. Like, what's your sense of like like exploration for new things? Yeah. Yeah.
Not so much. Not so much. Not too adventurous on a lot of things. Yeah, but it's like, so I don't know if you've heard this before, like human design. Have you heard of this?
Roughly, yeah.
Okay, so there are two things, which is like one is like your day-to-day schedule. So there are two types of people. Either you need like a routine or you need a fluid like day-to-day schedule.
Right.
So that determines whether you are suitable or not to go into like a 9 to 5 or like a freelancing job.
Right.
And the other one is when you go into the small activities, do you have a routine? So it's also the two type of people. So my human design is that I need to be in flow with the general picture. So I don't have to do the same things at the same time every day, but when I do, it's the same things.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like you have this general flow, but then for specific things, you're very regiment on,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Wow, that's fascinating. Maybe maybe it might be the opposite, like
Really?
no flow, but I mean specific things a lot of flow, but like general picture more regimen.
Oh, interesting. You should look into it.
Yeah, that's cool. Human design definitely will. Yeah, how like it seems like you quite enjoy these concepts of different frameworks, right? Like so human design, maybe frameworks in astrology. How important are they in guiding your like life? Like it's like a lot of people like different frames, like the Myers-Briggs, for example, right? Everyone loves that, or like love languages, for example, guiding relationships. Is that something you're passionate about, learning about, or that you really apply in your life? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think these things are here for a reason, and it's not so much that I will only rely on these things, but it's just a method of self-exploration. Yeah, so like why not go onto this like journey of like knowing who you are. And I love doing these like quiz and things just to, because every time you kind of just by answering them, not really like the outcome, but you will self-reflect and have like a deeper understanding of who you are. But yeah, I'm a huge astrology person, so I live by that. Yeah.
Does that guide your relationship choices then? Like I mean, it does for a lot of people, right? Like, how do you see that, or like, how do you think about that?
It actually don't. Only for relationships. It's so funny. Even for like career, like people that I work with, sometimes I look at their like star chart. But I think for dating specifically, it is so like there's just so many things like upbringing, love languages, and like vibe, chemistry, things that you can never like explain. So still haven't found a way to explore that through astrology yet.
I asked all my guests on pod, like, is dating difficult in Hong Kong?
Oh.
Previous guest Austin did mention it was challenging because of like different expectations.
Yeah.
What's your view? Yeah.
This is a very difficult question. It's freaking hard to date in Hong Kong. Like, yep. I feel like you guys already know me by now after like everything that we shared. I think that obviously I'm very open-minded and I believe in a lot of non-traditional concepts, even just like starting your own business and dropping out of school. And people in Hong Kong are generally more traditional in that sense, and guys specifically love to have like a very like obedient girlfriend, like wife who doesn't work, wife who takes care of the family. So I don't exactly fit into that mold. So when I introduce myself to people, and my previous name card with like my previous company has like CEO on it, and guys get like scared immediately. It's like, oh, okay, like, and then they start like bowing and like, and like, what are you doing? You know, it's like, oh, like doing like this. I'm like, oh, this is a little bit weird. Yeah.
First, the way to hit on a girl is to bow.
Yeah, because they feel so intimidated. They're like, oh no, like you're like a owner of this company.
Yeah. And is that like how do you kind of dissolve that? Like, you know, if people have certain impressions of you and then they have their own patriarchal notions of like what women should be, like what do you think dating should be like in Hong Kong? Like, should guys be more forward? Should they be more like, you know, I don't know, hold less of these like, you know, patriarchal notions? Yeah. What advice do you have for, you know, all the men out there?
Oh my gosh. Take social cues. You have no idea how many guys, and the guys that we both know, don't take social cues. No names mentioned. But yeah, what do you think as a guy?
Yeah, I think in dating Hong Kong is like challenging because everyone comes with their own notion of what a relationship should look like, and also their past history. So a lot of the time that gets infused with what, you know, expectations they set. But I think, you know, it's a city with a lot of different people. I think the possibilities are out there, you know. Like I tell Austin, like, you got to put yourself out there, you know. And so it's less about, you know, I think it's just a rule applied to just not just dating, but just also friendships and relationships. You have to put yourself out there to know the type of people you gel with. And till you do that, then you really don't really know as much. And so just definitely put yourself out there, meet different sorts of people to understand which people gel. Yeah.
No, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I guess as we sort of wrap up, yeah, I think one, you know, question on my mind always is, as a, you know, a young entrepreneur, someone who's really found, you know, her foothold, or someone who's really, you know, had the courage to speak against the naysayers. How do you, what would you say to a lot of people out there who are like finding that challenge? Like a lot of people, like your younger 20-year-old self, you know, going through those tough challenges. What is that sort of advice you would give to them? Yeah.
I think it would be like be open-minded, but don't take anything personally. Yeah, like obviously people say their own opinions for a reason, and there is a reason to, you know, like listen to your elders, and they also have like their own experience and wisdom from a different place. Though they might not apply to your situation completely, there are things that you can learn from others, like always. But when people judge you and say things about you, it's always, from my personal experience, there's always like a portion of projection that comes from their own insecurity. So a lot of the times it's about them and not 100% about you. So yes, definitely listen, but just don't be upset and don't let it affect, like, I don't know what that word in English, I don't know that word in Chinese as well, but just like just don't let it defeat you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Don't let it put you down, like, well, separate what's personal versus like professional.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I guess, you know, one thing I realize a lot is, you know, people don't really think too much about you, like the spotlight effect, you know.
Yes.
So it's like I've become better at kind of detaching away from thinking about what other people think. At most, they may just think like 5 seconds of you, and even if they do, it doesn't really impact your life, right?
Precisely.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, you know, one last question is, you know, as, you know, all these thoughts, like, as we, you know, right before bed, we're fearful of things, we're excited about things. What's that one thing that really keeps you going all the time? You know, like, is it your family? Is it your friends? Is it your own voice? Because even through the toughest of times, like when you go to bed feeling sad, feeling upset, everyone has a reason, right? Everyone has something that drives them. What's that for you? Yeah.
For me, it's my purpose. I'm a strong believer in everyone is sent here to the earth and in this very specific time to be a part of society with their own unique purpose, and we're all, and in order to for everything to like work out, we have to fulfill that purpose. I read this in a book, I think by Jay Shetty, is that no one is ever in competition with anyone because we're all just so unique and we need each other to survive and for like the world to thrive. Yeah, so I think it's just me believing that I do have a purpose, and if I don't step into it, I know it sounds like a lot of pressure, but it's not really for me, because I know that if I continue, like working hard and I trust myself, it will eventually come. So I think it's just like trusting and believing in that, and eventually like I can embody that purpose and like do good. Yeah.
Cool. I love that. It's like you're not competing against anyone but yourself, and this is really your journey and your journey alone. Right? Yeah. Cool. Well, I think it was a pleasure, Leanne, having you on. I really enjoyed a lot of this conversation. I think hopefully people will get a lot out of it. I'm sure they will do, as I have. Yeah. Any final departing thoughts or things you want to say? Yeah.
It's a funny one.
Yeah.
But don't watch Netflix before you go to sleep, because you're gonna fall asleep like thinking about that show over and over again.
I watch like Black Mirror or some like spooky stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
What's on your Netflix list right now?
Oh my God.
So what's on the list tonight?
All the mindless reality shows like Selling Sunset. Like I'm a sucker for like those mindless things.
Well, you'll go to sleep just fine.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Cool. Thank you. Well, yeah, I guess it's not 1 a.m. now, but hopefully you guys get a good sleep. See you guys. Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye. Yeah.